You're riding a packed Tokyo subway one ordinary morning, lost in your thoughts. Then, out of nowhere, the air around you turns toxic. No alarms, no sound, just an invisible poison drifting silently through the crowd. This isn't a movie script. It really happened in 1995, in the heart of Japan's capital. What if your daily commute turned into your last? That's exactly what thousands faced when something unthinkable happened underground in Tokyo. A normal morning was shattered in minutes. But who could carry out such a terrifying act? And why? Imagine the typical chaos of Tokyo during morning rush hour, people hustling to catch their trains, packed subway cars, and the hum of everyday life. But on March 20th, 1995, this ordinary scene turned into something terrifying and unexpected. Multiple coordinated chemical attacks unfolded across Tokyo's busy subway system, leaving the city in shock. Within minutes, emergency services were flooded with calls, struggling to cope with the sheer number of injured commuters. The death toll climbed rapidly, and thousands of lives were forever changed. But who was behind this horrifying attack? This was not the work of random criminals, but of a mysterious and dangerous cult determined to unleash chaos. Stay tuned as we unravel the chilling story of how an obscure group turned a regular morning commute into a national nightmare. One background of the attack. You probably never think twice about the subway until it's used as a weapon. Tokyo's transport system, the lifeline of the city, became the stage for a calculated and deadly plot. Here's how the attack was timed to hit the heart of the city. The Tokyo subway system is one of the busiest in the world, with 286 stations. Spread across 13 lines, it connects almost every corner of the city. Every day, about 22% of Tokyo's population relies on it to get to work, school, or anywhere else they need to be. It's fast, efficient, and packed, especially during rush hour. That's exactly when the attack happened. On the morning of March 20th, 1995, 5 members of a cult coordinated a plan that involved placing bags of liquid sarin gas on 3 key subway lines: the Chiyoda, Hibiya, and Marunouchi lines. These lines weren't chosen at random. They all intersected at Kasumigaseki, the area where many of Japan's key government offices are located. Each cult member boarded a different train, carrying a bag filled with sarin wrapped in newspaper. Using sharpened umbrella tips, they punctured the bags before stepping off the trains, allowing the toxic gas to seep into the air. The attack lasted for over an hour before the authorities could begin stopping the trains. When it was over, 13 people had died and more than 6,000 were injured, some permanently. The subway cars turned into emergency zones, with passengers choking, collapsing, and struggling to escape. It was a terrifying morning that left Tokyo shaken to its core. 2. The cult leader, Shoko Asahara, Chizuo Matsumoto. What makes someone believe they're a god and convince others to believe it? 2. Shoko Asahara wasn't just any cult leader. His path from a struggling herbal salesman to a self-declared savior set the stage for one of history's darkest cult operations. Behind this calculated attack was a man named Shoko Asahara, originally born Chizuo Matsumoto. His early life was far from ordinary. Born partially blind and raised in a family of tatami mat makers, he was sent to a school for the visually impaired. But instead of bonding with his classmates, he manipulated them. He was known to take advantage of others, sometimes even forcing classmates to fight each other for his amusement. After finishing school, Asahara studied acupuncture and opened a herbal medicine shop. His charm helped him sell fake cures and treatments, and he earned a lot of money until he was caught. A jail sentence and financial ruin followed, and his anger toward the system began to grow. During this low point, He turned to yoga, meditation, and Eastern philosophy. That's when things took a dramatic turn. Asahara claimed he had a vision from a divine being, telling him he was the chosen one to lead humanity. With that belief, he started to build something bigger, a spiritual movement that would soon turn into a dangerous cult. 3. Formation and growth of Aum Shinrikyo. How does a group go from meditating in silence to planning mass murder? Aum Shinrikyo didn't look like a threat at first, but behind closed doors, they were building something far more dangerous than just blind devotion. Asahara's new group was called Aum Shinrikyo, which means supreme truth. But what he preached wasn't just about peace or self-awareness. He mixed bits of Buddhism, Christianity, and science fiction, creating a belief system that painted him as a godlike figure. He specifically targeted young people who felt lost or disconnected from society. Many of them were brilliant students, from top universities, engineers, doctors, and scientists. They were promised spiritual growth and a purpose. Once inside, though, things changed fast. Members had to give up everything, their money, belongings, even their names. They went through extreme rituals, long hours of meditation, painful breathing exercises, and intense isolation. Some were locked in tiny rooms for weeks or given high doses of LSD. They were told that this would cleanse their karma and prepare them for enlightenment. Celibacy was mandatory. Physical and emotional punishment was common. Members were kept sleep-deprived and overworked. Slowly, their sense of right and wrong was twisted. Many were convinced that suffering was necessary, and that dying or killing could be a way to help others reach spiritual purity. As the cult grew, Asahara built hidden communities called Lotus Villages in remote areas. These were like small towns, fully controlled by the cult, far from the eyes of outsiders. Inside, he had complete power. But behind the scenes, things were getting darker. Members who questioned Asahara were punished or worse. And soon, Aum Shinrikyo's focus shifted from recruiting new followers to preparing for something much more dangerous. 4. Criminal escalation and first murders. What happens when belief turns into violence? The cult's transformation from spiritual seekers to silent killers didn't begin with sarin. It started with silence, secrecy, and their very first victim. It started with what looked like another harsh training session. One member was showing signs of mental stress. The group decided to submerge him in freezing cold water, claiming it would help cleanse his mind. But something went wrong. He died. Instead of reporting it, they quietly burned his body and scattered his ashes in a nearby lake. The situation could have ended there, but someone saw too much. Another member, Shuji Taguchi, knew about the incident and started speaking out. The leadership saw this as a threat. They decided he had to be silenced. Taguchi was strangled by 5 members on Asahara's orders. It was their first intentional kill. Not long after, the group took things further. A lawyer named Tatsumi Sekimoto had been investigating the cult. He believed that people were being held against their will and that Aum was hiding dangerous practices. One night, cult members broke into his apartment. Inside, they killed Sakamoto, his wife, and even their child. The murders were cold, calculated, and designed to send a message: stay quiet or pay the price. From then on, the cult operated with a new level of brutality. Asahara told his followers that killing outsiders was an act of salvation. If someone died without joining the cult, they were said to carry bad karma into the afterlife. But if a cult member killed them, it would purify their soul. It was a twisted belief that turned murder into a spiritual duty. 5. Organizational structure and key figures. Could a group with corporate titles, scientific labs, and billion-yen budgets operate unnoticed? Aum Shinrikyo wasn't chaos. It was organized, strategic, and shockingly professional. These were the people who made it all possible. Aum had its own internal departments: administration, finance, healthcare, and even weapons research. Section was run like a business, but with cult loyalty at its core. Isako Ishii, the financial mastermind, helped Aum accumulate nearly $1 billion by pressuring members to surrender assets and properties. Meanwhile, Ikuo Hayashi, a former heart surgeon, led the cult's hospital not for healing, but as a facility to test drugs, control members, and intimidate outsiders. Then there was Hideo Murai, a physicist who became obsessed with creating weapons. He led efforts to build bizarre inventions, including an earthquake machine and energy weapons, none of which worked. But these failed attempts didn't stop them from trying more dangerous things. Saiichi Endo and Masami Tsukiya ran the biological and chemical weapons program. Tsukiya, in particular, was a talented chemist who produced sarin gas for the subway attack. These were not uneducated criminals. They were intelligent, highly skilled individuals doing the unthinkable. Six, previous attempts at biological and chemical attacks. Before the Tokyo Subway attack, the cult had already tested its ability to kill. It's terrifying how many chances the world had to stop them and missed. Aum Shinrikyo had tried to unleash May SS destruction multiple times before. 1995, they experimented with botulinum toxin and anthrax, two of the most deadly biological weapons known. But luckily, the cult's lack of expertise led to technical failures. In 1994, they tested sarin gas in Matsumoto. They intended to kill a group of judges who were about to rule on a case against the cult. Instead, the gas spread through a residential area, killing 8 innocent people and injuring hundreds. Even then, the attack wasn't connected to Aum right away. Authorities suspected a pesticide leak. Despite repeated failures, the cult grew more determined. Their goal wasn't just to survive. It was to trigger chaos, collapse society, and take over. They believed that mass death was the start of a global revolution, that only they were fit to lead. 7. Planning and execution of the Tokyo Subway attack. Under pressure and out of time, the cult made its deadliest move. What happened next would change Japan forever. In early 1995, police were closing in. A small sarin leak at one of Aum's facilities had triggered suspicion. A raid was planned. Asahara panicked. He believed the time for his final war had come. Instead of hiding, he ordered a large-scale attack to distract the police. The plan was simple and terrifying. 5 cult members were given plastic bags filled with sarin and umbrellas with sharpened tips. Each was assigned a train route that would intersect in central Tokyo during rush hour. The attackers were Ikuo Hayashi, Tomomitsu Nimi, Kanichi Hirose, Yasuo Hayashi, and Masato Yokoyama. Each boarded their train, placed their sarin bags on the floor, punctured them with the umbrellas, and exited quickly. The gas began to leak, colorless, odorless, and deadly. Chaos followed. Passengers collapsed. Some began foaming at the mouth. Emergency responders, unaware of the gas, also fell victim. In total, 13 died, and more than 6,000 suffered injuries, many with long-term damage. 8. Immediate aftermath and investigation. Within hours, suspicion turned toward Aum. What investigators found was worse than anyone imagined. Police raided Aum's compounds and discovered stockpiles of weapons, chemicals, and documents outlining their vision of global domination. Laboratories, gas masks, helicopters, even Russian military weapons were found. The leadership didn't resist. Shoko Asahara was found hiding inside a wall in one of the cult's buildings. Dozens of top members were arrested and eventually charged. In 2018, after years of trials, Asahara and 12 others were executed. Justice was finally delivered, but for many, the scars of that day never faded. 9. Potential scale and what prevented greater catastrophe. As horrifying as the Tokyo Subway attack was, it could have been much worse. The cult planned to produce 70 tons of sarin gas, enough to kill millions. What stopped them? Technical incompetence, rushed preparation, and sheer luck. The sarin used on March 20th was less pure than intended, which limited its damage. Still, the scale of the attack shocked the world and forced Japan to rethink its security. The Tokyo Subway attack is a reminder that dangerous ideas, when left unchecked, can grow into threats far beyond what we imagine. One charismatic leader convinced some of the smartest minds to commit acts of terror in the name of salvation. It also shows the importance of balance between religious freedom and public safety, between trusting communities and protecting them. Japan learned that lesson the hard way. Today, Aum Shinrikyo's name is banned, but similar groups still exist. That's why awareness, education, and vigilance are our best tools. Ask questions, stay informed, and never assume that it can't happen again. The Tokyo Subway incident wasn't just a tale of poison gas or radical belief. It was a stark reminder. When innovation lands in the wrong hands, the consequences can be catastrophic. It also revealed how quickly fear can spread, how slowly trust returns. This tragedy pushes us to question blind faith in those claiming to have all the answers. Whether it's a charismatic leader, an organization, or an idea that seems flawless, doubt is healthy. Ask questions. Stay critical. If this story opened your eyes or made you reflect on power, control, or belief systems, then share it forward. Tap the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Infinitale for more deep dives like this. Awareness is the first step in making sure the past doesn't repeat.